I have a couple of things here on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of get your views on social media at the moment, you have a lot of followers, all of this kind of stuff. Do you think it's currently good or bad or indifferent for the younger generation?
I think it's quite a binary approach to kind of say whether it's something good or bad. I definitely think there's elements. Here's my main concern with social media is young people, and me, I'll be honest with you, we have never been taught the tools to cope with it.
Yeah.
Technology and modernity is going nowhere except that way, like a juggernaut. And if you're not on it, you're going to be run over by it. Yeah. It's just the way the world's gone, and we've all signed up to this. This is all something we can't stop. So rather than go, oh my God, it's a disgrace. And I mean, I'm studying the implications this has, not just on people's welfare, but on the actual the neuropsychology of it. What's it doing to the brain, the developing brain? And it is doing really negative things. There's lots of studies out there on cognitive issues and stuff. But the reality is it's not going to go away. So what are our options here? We have to start showing people how to cope with this and deal with it, because it's an absolute chaotic landscape full of really, really, really difficult things and that the most level-headed of us can't deal with. So how do we expect some 15, 16-year-old who may be dealing with other problems to deal with it? So social media, for me, isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is that we haven't been given the tools to cope with how to use it and understand that. I would say to friends who've got young people who are worried about things like body image and stuff on Instagram. And I do believe regulation has to come in a bit tighter with influencers in terms of, like, as I always say, if an influencer's on, like, they're not going to put a picture of themselves up, eating a pizza covered in mustard, and because that's not a brand. And I wouldn't expect Adidas to put a brand of some guy laying couch potato, like, doing that, because that doesn't fit their brand. So they have every single right to establish their brand any way they want, but they also have a right to inform people that this is a brand, and they're paid for this, and they're paid to influence. And with social influence comes great responsibility.
Absolutely.
And they have to recognise that. And some of them do, some of them don't give a shit. Is it our jobs to make them? No, but it is the regulators. So, but it certainly isn't their fault. And the reality is, with social media and technology, we now have to figure out the best ways to show young people to cope with these things and understand that and be able to decipher the difference between reality and fiction. And at the moment, I can't even figure out what's real and not real any moment. And that will change. And the other element I find a little bit disconcerting about social media is this outrage culture we're creating. Yeah. Everybody's outraged all the time. Outrage, oh my God. And people don't even know what they're outraged about. I saw a thing yesterday about some girl who got a haircut, and the headline was like, people are outraged with and the same day 200 children were killed in Syria. Yeah. Get outraged with that stuff. Don't get outraged some girl got a haircut. Like what's wrong? And then it's just, as I said, it's like a commodity now to be outraged. And in a world that really promotes clickbait, where headlines are just there to pull you in, you have no right to be outraged until you read the context, read the pieces, especially around things like food, mental health, physical health, because the headlines are just there to be sensational. But really, if you want to engage with these, read the context, understand the context of these pieces. So yeah, I think that's the area. There's this feeding frenzy we have at the moment, where we want heads rolling and we want people fired. No, cop on, stop. Why are we turning on each other? This, more than any time in our lifetime, is time to get collective and bring unity and bring people together. And this seems to be a divisive thing that seems to pull people apart. Yeah. And it's not healthy for a community or a society, so we have to be honest about it.
But do you think that should be something taught in schools, or Yeah,
and let's be clear here, because the minute you say that, teachers go, well, it's not our jobs. No, it's not your job, of course. Teachers aren't resourced in that area, and they've got their own issues they've got to deal with. And the other thing is, I've seen in situations, I couldn't be more on the side of the teachers here. I will stand up for teachers till this world ends, because they're the most important people in our society. In many capacities, some people might go, what about healthcare professionals? I agree, but an awful lot of the issues we're seeing from health side are educational born issues and inequality born issues, people who don't have what other people have. So I feel within education, it's not our teachers' job. It's our government's job to develop a system where it's properly resourced so teachers themselves can benefit from these support systems and learning. And a prime example of that is, like, if you look at our first responders in this country, a lot of them don't have trauma training. A lot of them don't know how people. Why do we expect guards to be able to go out and deal with what they have to deal with just because they're guards? And then when it does happen, the systems of supports, they won't use them because of the stigma associated.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of big talk that has to happen, but it has to start with education, and we have to stop kind of deciding that we have to put all our resources into teaching more English or more. We don't.
Right.
We have to be brave here now.
Yeah.
And we're at a really revolutionary point in our lives, because in 20 years' time, an awful lot of those jobs you're trying to educate people in won't be there anymore. And if anyone listens to anything I say here, watch what happened. Some people, one thing, the music industry 15 years, like kind of at the arrival of Napster and stuff like that, crumbled.
Right.
Literally fell to its knees, didn't know what to do, nearly disappears. And that's not overestimating. That was a huge punch, because they weren't ready for it. We know that in 20 years' time, robots are going to be doing an awful lot of jobs that people currently do. We know that. That's a fact. Why aren't we doing anything about it? What the feck are we waiting for? That's what I can't get my head around. There's a warning shot here. Yeah. But we, more than anything in this country, we fear change. And we're not brave enough to go, right, lads, this isn't going to work in 20, 30 years. So what are the one things robots won't be able to do? Show empathy. Yeah. Show how to care for people. So my advice, if you're that type of person, go into social sciences or psychology. That's
a good point.
Because robots won't be doing that.
They won't. They can't. I don't know, this is just a side point. If you've heard of the Junior Certificate 300 Wellbeing.
Yes. And I've read up on it.
Yeah.
And if I'm being clearly honest, that's a box tick. That's just to get that from a systematic point of view, it's not enough. This is priority stuff. This isn't, like, I always refer to that as someone, maybe when I was in an all-boys school, we were never going to do a home economics.
No.
We just wouldn't do it because lads into cooking. And it was just the way it was. And that's what's going to happen with a non-compulsory mental health subject or a subject for well-being. They're going, I'm not going to do that because people think there's something wrong with me, because that stigma is associated with it. So it has to be a priority. It has to be a system of support, and every school in this country should have proper counsellors in them. And I mean one or two.
That was my next thing, was that this is just, every school has to do it, and it's just on the teachers just to teach this, or if they have the money to outsource it.
I don't think, and they don't, and I don't think this. I think the reality is the current teachers who are currently teaching, this isn't their job. They have too much to do.
Absolutely.
They have too much on. But the one thing I would say is, and I've worked with a lot of teachers. Teachers themselves are really struggling, emotionally and mentally, because I don't know, most teachers I know anyway, if they know somebody in their classroom's having a really difficult time, they don't go home and forget about that person. It stays with them. Yes, they might get kind of decent holidays, but there's an emotive aspect of their job that people don't see, and it's very difficult. Some teachers are overwhelmed just because they're teachers. Actually, in generally, teachers tend to have a lot of empathy anyway, so they might struggle with this type of thing, to see this in a classroom, knowing someone's either getting bullied or something going on at home or whatever. So the teachers themselves need those support systems and counsellors. And in a country that doesn't really have an effective system to support people, the schools have to figure out how to do it. And I'm actually not sure that budget should come from the school budgets, because if a school's given a budget and they need a new roof for their gym, or a counsellor, can you blame them as well? They need a roof in their gym. Yeah. So maybe this should be a budget that's independent of school budgets, and there's a support system in place.
Absolutely. It's just has to be the way that it goes forward.
And we just have to be brave. That's it. And it's not a bad thing, but change is inevitable. The world's changing, society's changing. We're still teaching the same stuff I learned 30 years. 20. I didn't do good at maths.
I didn't do good.
I didn't do good at maths. They didn't learn me well in maths.
Okay.